Hello, hello, and welcome back to Alchemical Serenity Pagan podcast. Let's take a walk through the woods, across the fields and moors, down to the beach where we can sit by the campfire and talk about all things pagan, druidry and witchy in a way that works with you on your path in this experience of being human. My name is Carolyn and I've been on my spiritual path for the last 45 years, having been launched into it by spirit in my early teens. Now, if you're new to this podcast or channel, then welcome. Find your earpods, a favourite brew and a comfy chair. Sit back and join us. Everyone is welcome. We are all inclusive as the paths we walk and the choices we make are for many different reasons and different experiences. And I love to hear from you in the comments about your experience here. And obviously, if you're a regular listener, then thank you once again for stopping by. It's lovely to have you here. Say hello in the comments below. So today's chat is all about the plant just finishing me in the hedgerows now in this country. It's called MEADOWSWEET. MEADOWSWEET is known as Filipendula ulmaria and also has been called Queen of the Meadow, Meadow Queen, Lady of the Meadow, Pride of the Meadow, Meadowwort, Meadsweet, Bridewort and Dolof, and it's a perennial flower and a member of the rose family, and parts of the plant have been used for centuries in the British Isles, primarily for pain relief and fevers, but also for stomach upsets, ulcers, diarrhoea. In 1897, Felix Hoffmann produced acetyl salicylic acid by using the salicin from MEADOWSWEET, which then led to the development of the brand name aspirin. But let's just step back in time a little bit more. In folklore and mythology of the British Isles, you may have heard of the virgin goddess of spring, Blodeuwedd, also known as Flowerface, who was created by two magicians, Gwydion and Math, from the flowers of meadowsweet, broom and oak. Blodeuwedd was married to Lugh, whose mother cursed him so he could not marry a mortal woman. Now everything was going really well until Blodeuwedd fell in love with another man, and she tricked her husband into how he could be killed. She went ahead and arranged his death. Lugh was struck by a spear and transformed into an eagle, but was changed back by Gwydion, who then punished Blodeuwedd by turning her into an owl. In ancient Egypt, MEADOWSWEET was found in the Egyptian pharaonic pharmacology, along with willow. MEADOWSWEET, watermint and vervain were the three most sacred herbs of the Druids, and it was certainly considered sacred in the Proto-Druidic period of the Bronze Age, as pollen grains of meadowsweet flowers have been found at sites in Carmarthen, West Wales, and as far away as Orkney in the Outer Hebrides off the north of Scotland. Traditionally, meadowsweet was used to reduce fever, and for the Druids it was a perfect herb and flower to use at funerals to maintain a safe passage from one state to the next. Although we can only assume what the Druids used the herb for, as there's no recorded information. If you aren't aware, the Druids didn't write anything down. It was an oral tradition to protect themselves, so when the Romans came along and killed off the last on Anglesey, any information like that has been lost. Now in Chaucer's The Knight's Tale, it is known as meadwort and was one of the 50 ingredients in a drink called save. It was also known as bridewort because it was strewn in churches for festivals and for weddings, and often made into bridal garlands and brides' bouquets in association with the goddess Brigid. In Europe, it took the name Queen of the Meadow for the way it can dominate a low-lying damp meadow after all the rain. And of course here, after all the rain we've had recently in England, I can certainly attest to that. During the 14th century, the flowers were used to flavour alcoholic drinks in England and also over in Scandinavia. Superstitiously, if a person had been robbed and then placed meadowsweet on water and asked who it was, if the meadowsweet sank, it was a man, and if it floated, it was a woman. In the 16th century, the botanist John Gerard described meadowsweet thus: "The smell thereof makes the heart merry and joyful, and delight the senses." Now, Queen Elizabeth I had the plant strewn across her bedchamber to provide a lovely scent, which, as we know, London didn't really smell particularly pleasant at that time, even for royalty. Culpeper described it as a fragrant meadow herb with a small white flower that appears like umbels at the top of the stalks, found at riversides and moist meadows. During the 19th century, a Swiss pharmacist, Johann Pagenstecker. In 1830, discovered salicin within the plant. By 1853, Charles Frederick Gerhardt synthesized the acid, and clinical trials began in 1876 into the compound helping with inflammation such as rheumatism. And then we go further and we come across Felix Hoffmann, who I mentioned earlier, who was a German chemist, and he created a synthetic altered version which caused less stomach upset, and this became the drug aspirin, and was then manufactured by people such as Bayer in 1899. Aspirin entered the Guinness World Record in 1950 for being the most frequently sold painkiller, but after the development of paracetamol in 1956 and ibuprofen in 1962, its use went into decline. An English pharmacologist in the 60s to 80s discovered through further clinical trials that aspirin was efficient as an anti-clotting agent and could reduce the risk of clotting diseases. So to this day, people are still told to take aspirin for that reason. So IDing when you're out foraging. Now, meadowsweet grows in the meadows, edges of the road, near water and in ditches across Britain. Its roots are perennial, but the stems grow annually 2 to 3 feet high. The leaves are fern-like and divided into many segments, which in turn are toothed. The flowers are small and cream, and from the car when you drive past them they almost look like one cream flower, but when you look more closely at them you can see that they are very small, delicate flowers. Fully open flowers and leaves are picked at the time of flowering, which is usually between June and August, and they should be dried gently at a temperature not exceeding 40 degrees centigrade. If you're growing and harvesting it and you'd like to try it yourself, it's probably not the greatest of plants to grow easily unless you have wet ground, a large natural pond maybe, or ditches like we have in the UK. I've noticed in my local area where it can grow quite prolifically. If we have a warm spring and little rain, it can flower in early June and it can be then just gone by the end of it. Now, we've had a lot of rain this year, and one field I passed by, which floods, was absolutely full of the plant. So when it's been a wet winter and a wet spring into summer, it grows really well. Because growing it yourself, obviously, as I've just said, is not something that's easy to do. If you want to work with meadowsweet, like any plant really, have a purpose for it. Do you want it for personal medicinal use, cooking, or for a floral arrangement to enjoy the scent, especially if you are actually going to have to go out and forage for it? This then stops the need to overindulge and take too much from the hedgerows. Before you cut, ask the plant which stem it is happy for you to take. Don't just dive in and cut away. The plant may wish you to move over to another plant as it's not wanting to give any of its stems away. If it's happy for you to take some, don't dive in and hack away at it. Just work with the plant and work with its energy. Doing this keeps the balance of energy between you, the plant, Mother Earth and nature. It allows your consciousness to work with that of the plant. Please don't be arrogant in thinking that plants do not have a consciousness. They do. And always remember to only take 10%. You can't really need a great deal for personal use. And of course, remember, in the UK, it's illegal to forage on the roadside for commercial use. You can't make money from roadside foraging. If you see some in a farmer's field, pop in and ask if they don't mind you taking some. Most farmers, they might not even notice they've got meadowsweet because they're so busy, and they may be happy for you to just go in and take, a few from their hedgerows. But don't just obviously walk in and take it. That is definitely theft. So if you really want to steal, though, in all seriousness, have a word with yourself about the path that you're on. Taking from nature for commercial purpose is just wrong in so many ways. Now, I'm saying this about meadowsweet because it's one of those plants where it is likely you would have to go and forage for it. As I've said before, it's not going to grow easily in a garden unless you are listening in and thinking, well, actually, I'm a landowner and I've got a really wet corner of my field. Yes, it would do. It needs sort of natural pond or a sort of boggy area in a back garden that stays damp all year round and that you can keep an eye on looking after it. So please forage sensibly and within the law of your country. I know I bang on about foraging and how much to take, because we really have to be so careful. I know other countries may be different, and across Europe as well it may be different, but in the UK, it's always good to just be... We don't have a great deal of plants that are available to naturally forage, and so I do kind of go on about the energy of why you're foraging and for what purpose. I've seen people go and take absolutely stacks of plants foraging, go home, dry them and never use them. What a waste. So really, when you're going to go and do foraging for absolutely anything at all, just have a think how much you really are going to need. What are you wanting to make from it? And as I've said before, are you going to eat it? Are you going to use it for medicinal purposes, or just have a beautiful flower arrangement with some of the cut flowers that you've got in your garden maybe? Medicinally, the plant contains salicin, which is a much milder form of salicylic acid. MEADOWSWEET is one of the best digestive remedies available, and the active constituents and flavonoids, volatile oils, phenolic glycetol, there's some of these words, tannins, etc. It's got therapeutic actions of an analgesic, antacid, anti-inflammatory, anti-ulcer, astringent, calmative, stomach, antispasmodic, anti-rheumatic, urinary, diuretic, calming. Phew! All parts of the plant, flowers, leaves, roots, can be used. And obviously, its uses as balancing antacid, which will normalise acid production in the stomach, calms and soothes the digestive tract, easing nausea, vomiting and diarrhoea. And it's a gentle remedy for children's digestive issues as well. It is shown to promote the healing of ulcers and other damaged digestive mucosa. Also used for joint conditions such as arthritis, rheumatism, where it can ease pain and swelling, and it promotes the healing of the connective tissues. It can be used in mild UTIs, soothe, heal and disinfect or flush out the bladder. And it can be used in the same way as German chamomile. Doses, although this is through my own research. Obviously, if you are self-treating, that you'll work this out yourself. But it's 1 to 2 teaspoons of the dried herb per cup of boiling water as an infusion, taken 3 times per day, or 2 to 4 ml of a 1 to 5 tincture, taken up to 3 times a day. Medicinal virtues are the flowers are, now here's a word, alexipharmic and sudorific, and great in fevers and all malignant diagnosis. Oh, there's some of these words. It's so much easier to read it than say it. Homeopathic uses. Now, homeopaths use Spirea ulmaria for people who are morbidly conscientious, perhaps obsessive, compulsive, and also for pressure in the throat and that feeling of contraction in the throat as well. Edible and cooking. Now, you can make a tincture using alcohol and glycerin. The glycerin is used to help extract tannins found in the plant. Now, if you want to use alcohol, I'm going to give you a recipe in a moment. Now, this recipe is from Rosalie de la Foret's book. So for the tincture, you're going to need 100 grams of dried MEADOWSWEET, 400 ml of vodka, and preferably 50% proof is the best, 100 ml of vegetable glycerin. So what you do is just place all the MEADOWSWEET flowers in a jar, add the vodka and the glycerin, shake well and leave for 4 to 6 weeks, but check on it often. You may find that the dried flowers and leaves have soaked up all the liquid, so remedy this by getting a clean stone or weight and place it inside the jar on top of the flowers, and this will just gently push them down. You can add some more alcohol to cover the plants. Once the 4 to 6 weeks is over, you can strain the macerated herb and do this through cheesecloth into a fresh, clean jar, and then squeeze the hell out of the cheesecloth to get the rest of the goodness out of the flowers so that you've got every drop of liquid. Once strained, you can bottle and label. Now, a standard dose is 30 to 60 drops as needed depending on sensitivity. Now, if you're wondering why the glycerine is used, that's because it brings out more of the medicinal properties of the plant than if it wasn't used. You can also make a super MEADOWSWEET tea from dried leaves and flowers. Just add half a teaspoon to a cup and cover with boiling water. Now leave it to steep for 5 to 10 minutes. Strain and drink, and if you wish you can obviously add a honey or stevia, but don't add milk. With both of these, I will make up a printable that you can download from Patreon for your journals, Book of Shadows, Book of the Ways, whatever you use. Now, MEADOWSWEET has an almondy marzipan flavour and has been used in ice creams and semi-Fredos. I have seen quite a few recipes online for this, so I'm not going to add one here because apart from the fact it will take too long, if you want to go and look for recipes using MEADOWSWEET and its marzipan almondy flavour, then I'll let you go and look for those yourself, because we're all different in our palate and what we like to eat. Now, obviously, there are cautions to making medicinal stuff and taking all of this. So do not take if you are sensitive or allergic to aspirin, and it may interfere with any blood thinning medication such as warfarin. It has been known to exacerbate stomach problems, so if you are taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medication, it can react with that. Extracts of the plant have also been known to affect those suffering with asthma, and if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, obviously I always say, well, to be honest, let's be fair, I always say about everything to do with herbs, if you're going to ingest them for medicinal purposes, then please seek advice from a herbalist or do some really good research yourself. And now for the most important thing, the magical side to MEADOWSWEET. Now, it has been used to create love potions in the past, but MEADOWSWEET is what we now term as a bridging herb, and it can help with the connections between the physical and the spiritual realms. The gentle energy of MEADOWSWEET promotes love, harmony and connection in all relationships, and it comes under the sign of Jupiter. MEADOWSWEET was not only used in love spells, but also in helping a person to expand their consciousness of the mind and awareness as part of a spiritual practice. And even Nicholas Culpeper wrote, Jupiter is the regent of the MEADOWSWEET. And of course, MEADOWSWEET can be used as a protection sachet to promote peace and happiness within yourself. If you want to bring love into your life, and I don't mean a person, but more self-love, love towards family, love in general, then perhaps there's something missing within your aura, then use MEADOWSWEET. Teas are the easiest form, so if you're okay to drink it, obviously, just give the previous recipe that I gave you a try. You can also dry the flowers and use them in a loose incense or make smoking ones from them. Now, I don't personally agree to love spells to attract someone to you. I also don't believe in saying that love will come when you least expect it. What's the point of that? You don't want it when you least expect it. You want it to kind of turn up at the right time when you're ready for it. If I'm looking to attract love into my life, I start with me. I do my shadow work. I define what I want in my life. Do I really want another person in my life? Would it be easy just to have a dog or a cat or some chickens? Not everyone needs human love. What we need to learn is just to love ourselves and raise our vibration to be loved. So if you're wanting to do a love spell, do this not as a spell, but as an affirmation of bringing love into your life. This raises your vibrations and makes you attractive to others. And maybe if there is someone out there that they will bring around it through your consciousness, it will come together and you'll end up meeting somebody. Even if you don't use MEADOWSWEET in your practice because it's not a plant that is local to you, or you have managed to actually be able to find any, then look for some dried MEADOWSWEET online. Weave it in where you can and bring about not only delicious food flavoured with it, but, it's going to bring that love and light into your world. If you use it in your practice, feel free to share what you do with it in the comments below. It's always nice to hear what other people do. We're all on a different path and we're all using things in a different way. So it's always nice to hear if you have a use for MEADOWSWEET, what you do with it. So there we go. That's my podcast this time on MEADOWSWEET. Thank you for joining me today. Thanks to my patrons for the additional support. And also, don't forget to subscribe, give me a like and a comment. It's really great that we're managing to get a wonderful community of people who are all like-minded and looking for answers, looking for advice, looking for something on their path. And this, for me, is a wonderful way of sharing. So if you have something you'd like to say about your path that you're on, or about the plants that you work with and how you work with them, use the comments below. Let's have a conversation. I read every single one, and I love chatting with people from all over the world, the different ways that we integrate the plants and the energies into our lives. So with that in mind, I say thank you again for supporting me by listening in, and with peace from my grove to yours, I will be back again very soon. Bye for now.